Hey, Ancient World History. This is going to be a one-time video for the entire pod, so you don't have to keep going back every week for a lesson. We're going to try this out to see how it works, because I know some of you said you were really the biggest fan of these. So we're going to talk about two things, monotheism and ancient Greece. Monotheism and ancient Greece. Monotheism right here, as you can see, it's continuing our discussion like we did last time with polytheism. Remember, the belief in many gods is polytheism. The belief in one god is monotheism. Mono means one. Thea is the, well, theo, I guess, is a Latin root for deities and gods and such. So we're going to talk about how the role of religion in society changed with monotheism. It's different from the way it was with polytheism. We'll talk about more about why we study religion. This one's going to be more applicable because the religions we're going to talk about, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, are the main ones in the world today. What ways does monotheism affect cultures? Describe importance of religious beliefs, analyze how religion and society are connected, especially in the Middle East, talk about world religions, and then on our right we have all those standards. Okay. So the first week is just kind of doing more of that religious comparison we did back in Pod 1, except rather than talking about why it's important specifically, we're going to focus more on what are these religions, how do they compare, and what's the point of all of that. Okay. And we could break it down. I'll tell you right now that Judaism, Christianity, and Islam all are basically the same root religion. It's kind of like the PlayStation thing. Like PlayStation 1 started, it was good, it had some basic kind of tendencies, it had basic processor, stuff like that. Then eventually PlayStation 2 came out. It had all the stuff from the PlayStation 1, and then they added more to it. And then the PlayStation 3 came out, and it kind of took away a lot of stuff from PlayStation 2, but you can still trace it back to PlayStation 1. Think of it like that. PlayStation 1 is Judaism, PS2 is Christianity, PS3 is Islam. That's not saying that it's always the newest best one is the newest one is the best. It's just saying that that's kind of how you can follow it together. They all come from the same ideas. They all have the same stories, same people for the most part. And you can really see some similarities, but there are some really key differences. So that should be a good week for you. So that'll finish our talk on religion, and we'll start talking about ancient Greece. We're going to talk about how ancient Greece was the center of philosophy, talk about political structures that they had there and how we use them today, consequences of expansion, because there is a huge thing to talk about with the Greeks and the Persians. Okay. We've got our standards there. We'll talk about benefits of having an empire, because the Greeks are an empire, the Greek and Roman influences, and how they can impact the world, specifically like what we do today, how our society is impacted by that, and how your life would be different if you were in this era, in this time frame. So you all said that you wanted to learn about ancient Greece, and really it came up any time you learn about their gods. You learn about the gods was the big one. You also want to learn about how they fought these big wars, and I thought we'd actually talk about how they are and kind of compare them with their big opponent, because you can see there's some similarities there. So the first lesson is going to be that week is this is next week as of this recording, comparing Greece and Persia. They're really similar and they're really harsh enemies to each other at the same time. And then we'll talk about, is this Sparta? Most people's ideas of what Greece were nowadays seems to really have some influence with the movie 300, and I know there was a more recent one. So we're going to take some time and look at that and see, is the movie accurate? Because a lot of ways it's not, but in some ways it's more than people give it credit for. Okay. And finally, the last week, and we're going to be working from those same topics, is going to be more of kind of a research thing. I'll get more into it in live class to describe it. Basically what's going to happen, I'm going to give you a PowerPoint with some blank spaces telling you, okay, fill in these with these things. Like fill in stuff about a timeline, talk about their economy. I have some resources for you, and we're going to basically spend the whole week doing that, and at the end you'll turn it in. This is kind of like the big thing that history does. There is information out there, time to put it together and get the really useful things that we need to know, and say, well, do we need everything else? So this is going to be another one of those things like the project before, where you kind of have to do a lot of effort forward, but it's not that hard. There's a lot of steps to make sure that you're successful. But again, if that ever happens, feel free to contact me if you're concerned about anything. All right, we'll go ahead and finish the quiz, and I'll talk to you later.